Hello, my name is Hamish Conway and welcome to TACOS Tuesday. This is episode 50 and with me today is Sebastian Hargraves. Welcome again, Seb. And something is special about this one because this has been, the 1st of August last year was when we did our first podcast, got released. And so today is actually the 30th of July, and when this comes out, it will be 5th of August. 50 podcasts. We had a break for Christmas. Mission accomplished. That was our first goal, was to go, right, we're gonna commit to this for 1 year. So well done, Seb. Turning up.
Thank you. Well done to you too. We put out some good stuff.
Excellent. And have you got the birthday cake or?
It's on its way.
It's on its way. It didn't quite turn up in time, right? And if you're watching on YouTube, we should cue celebration music and party poppers and stuff like that. But it's But anyway, and I was actually curious as just preparing for this here. I'd looked on, I actually went to Google rather than ChatGPT. I said, well, how many podcasts actually make it to 50? And it said 90% of podcasts don't make it past 3 episodes. So we definitely got past that. However, it said the chances of making it to 50 are 11.28%. So I don't know how that quite plays in with the 90% that don't make it. But anyway, so there's 11.28% chance that we would make it to 50, and we did. And as it turns out, 100 is 6.17%. So in terms of commitments for the next 12 months, that would
right.
There you go.
So we're in rare air.
In rare air. And so over the last year, in terms of today, it's not good to hear us just talk about, well done, pat ourselves on the back for getting to 50. But what it is a good chance, so to actually reflect on the last 12 months and look at, well, what's changed since we started from an Amazon ads point of view, or even just with Amazon Australia, what stayed the same, and then also we'll look at what do we see is coming down the pipeline in the next 12 months. So we will get to that there. Look at through the 50 episodes, we've done all the 49 prior to this. Actually, we've covered off a lot on advertising fundamentals. We've done technical deep dives. We've looked at we've had some companies come on and talk about things. We've looked at case studies. We've shared some data around our aggregated results, etc. But the whole focus has been how can we just provide as much value as we can? And we've probably shared more than what we were comfortable with at times, but we thought we would do that. In terms of stats, I actually don't know. That's maybe a good thing or a bad thing, because our intention was let's just do this, be consistent with it. We know it's kind of niche and we're not expecting to have big numbers. I did see the other day an email came through from Podbean, which is one of the small options there, and that had 1,000 downloads. And so I'm sure Apple and Spotify have been a lot higher than that, and YouTube as well. So anyway, those numbers actually aren't what drive us around this. It is around let's provide as much value as we can. But also thinking, Seb, for you, what's been your favorite part of doing this over the last year?
Yeah, so I think for me, my favorite part's been learning myself, and as we've dived into some of these topics a lot more deeper, just kind of understanding them. I think there is a level of understanding that happens when you're trying to tell or teach someone else about a particular topic that's different to just learning it yourself. So I think that's probably been my favorite part. What about yourself?
Well, it's actually been the consistency piece of putting it in the calendar, and it's kind of forcing this content creation, and it ties into what you were saying, but also it's been a way to get all the knowledge out of your head and shared. It's I'm always super impressed just of how just how much you do know, and just extracting that from your head into the podcast has been really interesting. And this has been my favorite part actually there. So, look, sometimes turning up is, it's we've got to do another podcast, when you got lots going on. But I think the consistency piece certainly pays off, and it's just I think over time that just builds trust. And I think that's certainly been helpful there. It's been worthwhile doing it from a business point of view, but actually I think there is that strong correlation to the fact that we have been sharing our results, and there's a bit of an accountability piece there that, and to your point, you want to be learning, and the more when you teach, you learn more, right? There's a saying that often the teacher is the best student there because you've had to learn it. Anyway,
Yeah,
so that's
absolutely.
been some of my favorite parts around it. But look, let's just dive into what we were talking about before getting underway. About the first question here is it's kind of two-part question. What has changed over the last 12 months and what has stayed the same? So I'll kind of get the ball rolling here on this. I think some of the things that I'm seeing change in a more meaningful way is challenger brands making their way up the ranks. And I was literally just looking at one yesterday that just had me think of this, and it's in the cleaning. It's got to number 2 in the cleaning category, and it's this black cleaner that is like for cleaning in showers or floors and like grouting kind of thing like that. And it's boring as package, like it's black, hard to read text, not really big for, not doing a great job on Amazon, but I was talking to Susie from our team and she said, oh yeah, I've seen that on TikTok. And just this, how brands, unknown brands can make their way up the charts on Amazon. And for established brands or known household brands, that they actually cannot just rest on their laurels with these challenger brands coming through. So I think there's more opportunity. I think what has changed is that, and also linked to that piece is there is more international sellers coming into Australia, at least, Australia centric here. Not everything we'll talk about will be, but that's very noticeable as well. And so the standard is certainly being raised from a brand content point of view, and also the offers that we're seeing are getting sharper as well. So that's something there to start it off. What about for you, Seb, that you've seen change?
Yeah, so yes, similar things that you've mentioned there. I mean, so some of the stuff that's kind of happened that I've seen change on the advertising side specifically is that there are challenger brands coming in. They're willing to invest in advertising because they understand the model a lot better than a lot of the brands that are probably traditionally retail brands, brick and mortar brands that are selling into Amazon, and they understand getting the importance of getting in early and establishing ranking and positioning and all of that sort of stuff. So I think that's one thing I have seen as well, and that suggests with the data. So we've had brands that got in very early with Amazon, like right at the beginning when Amazon was around. A lot of those brands have just carried that history and that early advantage for a long time. But we're noticing now as the market's getting more mature, that early advantage piece is gone. So, if they're launching new products, they're like, well, why isn't it as easy as it was, 3 or 4 years ago? And it's like, well, that's gone. That's no longer around anymore. So what that means for brands is the brands that take launches like with new product more seriously really get their products off to a good start, and then that gets the flywheel moving in regards to reviews, ratings, more revenue, bestseller badges, so on and so forth, and kind of carries them through. So I'd say that's probably one of the big ones that I've seen. The other thing, some other things that we've seen is Amazon leaning heavily into sponsored video, like with sponsored TV through their Amazon Prime. They're still pushing really heavily on that, even giving credits to brands to run advertising for it. So like they're trying to, entice brands to do that. And they're going to continue to do that. And then another shift, probably, this might be for the future. There are brands that are starting to get much better, and this might coincide a little bit with AI, generating more content. And I think, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but I think the future, that's going to be a big piece as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think looking back even 12 months ago around a lot of the AI image content in particular, it was still pretty iffy, but we just know things have moved very quickly in the AI space, obviously. And I think that's something that I've really noticed change, and just the ability to now spin up more creative is getting easier. And that's going to, for those that embrace that, that's going to be a big advantage going forward as well. So what else has changed there? I've got, I think, like in general, this is not ad specific, but Amazon compliance is getting harder and harder. Like in all this whole change with user permissions and just master user permissions, that's a pain. But I don't know, that might not be anything changing. It seems like doing this now
Yeah.
for 12 years, every year, something gets harder from Amazon. So that's maybe it's staying the same, just in the fact that it's still there getting harder. And I think even in the last 12 months, from an Amazon vendor point of view, for first party sellers, that Amazon's negotiation focus has been really strong around profit. And so I think initially it was around growth and sales and just let's go. But then in the last 12 months, the conversations have been far, far tougher. And for pretty much every brand. And Amazon retail team just not playing very nice. So that's maybe a bit of a change that people have experienced as well, just from what we've seen. That is there. And also another change, just while you think of anything. A year ago, Amazon Prime numbers weren't anywhere near what they are in Australia as they are right now. And the same day delivery or next day delivery has really started to move consumer behavior now around shopping on Amazon. Like, you're in Australia now. I'm obviously in New Zealand, but I go there a lot, like 2 times this month already. And more people, they've got their Amazon account, they've got their Prime membership, and they are using Amazon a whole lot more. And I think in Australia, this has been a big shift. I did one of the podcasts we did was looking at the 2024 results, and I had a forecast in there being 5.8 million Prime members by the end of this year. And that is a lot of households, and those numbers aren't crazy, and they've kind of had a off the record ballpark verification that that's what they're shooting for, or actually more like 6 million. And I think that's a big change. And for brands now who are not really embracing Amazon, that this is going to be more and more of a play as consumers start to look at Amazon as a convenient place to purchase, because they know they will get it soon, they'll get it fast, and they will trust that delivery. So that's, it's more and more going to be dominating the e-commerce space. I think when we look at the 2025 results for Amazon, that they will be meaningful compared to any other competitor.
Yep.
What else springs to mind for you in terms of what things haven't changed as you think about Amazon ads? Is TACOS still the number one metric for measuring?
Yeah, I think so. We are very big on scaling brands profitably, and so for us, total advertising cost of sale, or TACOS, is the metric that helps us guide us on that. So yeah, it's still super relevant, as it always has been, and will become more relevant as brands want to expand and grow. They've got to have some constraints around what that looks like. Yeah, so I think that's still relevant. I think some other things, like, kind of, I suppose, touching on the point that you said about Prime membership, I think they're going to go even harder on Prime membership. Like, I think obviously they've got that big uptick, but they're going to continue to offer really good discounts and rates, and obviously bringing in Prime Video is part of that. They can be bundling that up and making that much more attractive. So I think that's just going to get more heated and competitive. One stat I did see as well was around for Q2 this year, record numbers for repeat purchase via subscribe and save. So that subscribe, and we've been talking about customer lifetime value as really the hidden metric that most brands are not aware of, and that's kind of what it feels like it's playing out. I don't think maybe 2 years ago it was as relevant, but I think that's starting to really ramp up, and now the subscribe and save model is starting to take shape, and a beast in and of itself. And I think the reason that's important, go back and listen to one of our episodes, but customer lifetime value is the secret sauce to growing your brand profitably if you can keep customers that will come back and purchase from you multiple times.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I like that. Excellent. What else? There's obviously been some other changes recently. Our previous podcast was talking about Amazon exiting from Google Shopping, and we'll see if that's a long-term play, or if they've obviously been testing it for a while. So that's going to put more pressure on. Is Amazon asking brands to do the heavy lifting on that more top of the funnel? Are they just negotiating with Google, like as they might just go, we'll turn everything off and trying to get a better deal there? Wouldn't be surprised. But that's going to be interesting. So listen to the previous podcast there. But what do you, I guess, as we kind of segue potentially Well, in a moment, we'll get to the next 12 months, but I'll be keen to get your thoughts on what brands need to be thinking about in terms of off Amazon traffic or how they build their brands. But also, I think some things that haven't changed is that brand, to succeed on the platform, you still need to do the fundamentals really well. And that includes having products that customers want, that work, and get great reviews and offer good value, right? So, and that doesn't mean cheap, but just offer good value. The whole package makes sense. And still surprised that there are companies that are looking to sell products that actually aren't that good. And so fundamental is the product has to work, and sometimes less but better is a strategy as well. And I am still seeing, because we're proactive in what we do and are looking to work with companies. And when I'm doing my research on that, still seeing a lot of big name brands that we all know in certain categories that are, still doing a really, well, that they're just not taking Amazon seriously, or they're just not investing in it. And so I still find that really interesting. And there's been, we're kind of 8 years in nearly now, or 7 to 8 years in, and a lot of brands still haven't moved. That's probably not the people listening to this podcast, but I still find that really fascinating. If you are one of those, then like now is like you just have to start investing in the channel, even if it's as a defensive play. But it's the horse is well and truly bolted, as it were. So that's looking back and what's changed, what's stayed the same. Let's start to put our attention looking forward. What do you think is in store for brands selling on Amazon in Australia and in the US?
Yeah. I mean, the first and foremost is growth. I think they're going to continue to see good growth. Every time Amazon brings on new brands, big brands, they bring all their customers, and obviously that just continues to not only create more shoppers on the platform, but also more real estate for advertising, etc. So I think we're going to continue to see that. I think we are going to start to see like a little bit of what we've seen in the US, which is cost per click pressure. So we'll see the CPCs, which hasn't risen for a while. So I think we'll start to see that rise over the next 12 months. And then I think...
Can I just ask, what do you think's different about the CPCs maybe in the last 12 months not moving a lot, if that's what I heard, versus going forward? What do you think's shifting?
I think just budgets. I think that more ad spend is in the ecosystem. I think it might have been even faster.
There's like 250 million in Australia, $250 million of ad spend, but predicting that to go to 350 million in this year. In this year, given that keeping up with that same growth rate that they've been holding for the last 4 years. So yeah, that will by nature. Well, there's kind of two things maybe. One could be more advertising real estate, but at the same time, click costs would be a natural, and increasing click costs would be a natural thing.
Yeah, that's right. Because the more real estate comes from the product pages that are available to advertise on when new brands come. But if you're searching, there's no more real estate on that page. That page is already like saturated, if that makes sense. So that's why click costs will continue to go up. So there will be more real estate, but there'll also be more pressure on those really key keyword targets, etc.
Yeah. Okay.
So we think that will go up. I think the brands I think content is going to be huge, and we've seen this in the US. But I think brands that lean into like fast content iteration will win ultimately in the next 12 months. So they'll be improving their conversion rate. Won't reduce their cost per click, but their conversion rate will allow them to have higher positions on the page because they'll be able to afford it because of their improved conversion rate. So leaning into content and having your brand show up right will be more important. I think brands have got away with it for a very long time, particularly brands that are well known. They can they can get away with not doing as much, but I think that will change over the next 12 months.
Yeah. Good. And I think some other things I see changing over the next 12 months, linked to what you're talking there with content, and it's also how to have content be ready for AI, and whether that's Rufus on the Amazon platform. So more content that is about the intended use of the product or examples of use of the product, and that can include video as well. So I think that the more people are angling to that, the better. There's also going to be cracking the code on just how do we see people's shopping behaviors change to use AI agents. AI shopping agents more? And if so, how do you get your products feeding into those shopping agents? And so that's going to be, a key area of testing and just working out on that. It will be interesting. I was thinking before doing this, you know, what changes behavior, right? People are, like, particularly in the US, are so embedded in using Amazon. Over 60% of searches begin on Amazon. One key thing that Amazon has that no one else has got is their fulfillment network. So I think that is actually like not talked about enough, in terms of, ultimately, a lot of consumers are still going to want that convenience and trust that they have in Amazon. I don't think that goes away. And if I think some people could have some bad experiences with AI shopping agents early on that could actually, send more people to Amazon. But it's going to be fascinating just how that all transitions through this year. But what's going to make people change behavior? I mean, it's even seeing behavior change. And I was thinking about, instead of Googling, going to ChatGPT, right? How many people are actually doing that, or how quick has that shift happened? And I think there's been a lot of that happening. It's like, okay, are we going to see some kind of mega shift in behavior in Amazon shopping? Like that's, who knows? Who knows, just with AI and the pace of change, or just how good is that experience? But at the end of the day, people are buying physical products that need to move, and people need to trust that it's going to turn up. And they've gotten so used to trusting that. And even in Australia, it's only kind of early days, but they are beginning to trust that. So potentially some products that maybe might not be as time sensitive there, that people are willing to wait, that could be different. And this, what came to mind was Temu there, which I know is different to shopping agents. No one else is really changing the fulfillment game yet, or has the capital investment to do it. Others are going to try, and they'll maybe get better. But I just think that Amazon's really got that nailed, and it's going to take a big shift from someone to pull that off. Which kind of does lead me to Temu. Like, I know Temu's making a big push into Australia, and there's probably more of a demo. I think with Temu, there's a type of product that gets bought on there, and there's maybe a demographic that is buying on Temu as well. I mean, the delivery is maybe getting quicker, but it's coming out of China. So it'll be interesting to see just the impact that has. I know Temu has been very aggressive in Australia to try and get brands onto the platform, but there is this, basically got to be selling 30% below your normal market price. And so a lot of brands just do not want to do that, even though they don't have many fees associated with it. But there's kind of like a brand integrity piece. But I think for products that, I know my daughter's Temu cart, is just chock-a-block with stuff. And that's probably actually, well, it's not going to last that long. It's not very good for the environment, but there's a market there, and they're fully tapping into that. I think people selling those sort of products, they're going to find it very difficult to compete with that. Like selling on Amazon, those same sort of products, I think it's going to be a lot harder. That was just a little segue of what I could see coming up, just because I have known the last 12 months, Temu has been getting pretty aggressive about the Australian market. Any other thoughts on that?
No, I mean, other than to say that's why brand building is important, because people will be willing to. So, the last thing you want to do is just compete on price. So, brand building is important. So, I think that, having your products available not just on Amazon, but you're doing socials with Facebook, and you're building a true brand is important. I think Amazon even know that that's important. So, in the US, they partner. Right, like they've partnered with Meta, and they've partnered with Instagram, and and they've and with TikTok, right? So Amazon's partnered with all of these socials because they know that social shopping is important, and it's part of building that brand piece.
Yeah, and so that's a very, very important point, right? In terms of those companies that pour into building their brand will do well in the next 12 months. If you've been neglecting your brand, then it's time to re-look at how you do that. And also, I did see a LinkedIn post the other day that was saying, a person commenting that Mark Zuckerberg had said in 2026, 90% of the ads on Meta will be AI generated. And the person's comment I thought was pretty on point. It's like, well, those ads will be technically correct, but they will probably lack personality. And this is where, or personality / authenticity, and particularly for those who, for founder brands, to actually be the face of the brand, like that is a point of difference. But brands are going to continue to have to think, well, how do we get attention in this, world where there's so much content happening? I think brands need to be putting a lot of attention on how are we going to stand out as a brand. I think that's going to be really important. Then other things there, what's come down the pipeline, AMC is on Marketing Cloud. What do you see happening in the next 12 months?
Just more development there. So you'll just be able to have AMC as Amazon's Marketing Cloud, where you can start to segment your customers into high intent customers, repeat purchase customers, etc. So it's probably more relevant for brands leaning into DSP than it is anything else right now. But they Amazon's leaning heavy into giving advertisers access to that information, and I think that's going to continue.
Yeah. So that'll be watching the space and just really seeing how that full funnel attribution picture looks. So that's going to be really interesting, because in Australia at the moment, still not many brands are using DSP. It has a higher spend, and most people are not even close to optimizing their sponsored ads, all the different types there. So, that's where most of the budget's still going. I think through this year, we'll start to see a bit more DSP happening. If there is some brands starting to see some diminishing returns, then they'll be looking up the funnel. And even potentially if this continuation of the Google Shopping exit from Amazon continues or is significantly reduced, that DSP could be a play where brands put some more attention into. But it is in the kind of a minimum $5, but really more like $10,000 a month that brands need to be investing in the DSP to have it actually provide anything meaningful, and to build that top of the funnel to flow through. So we shall see how that goes. All right. So Seb, as we wrap up, so we talked about what we can see coming, and so what's our commitment on TACOS Tuesday over the next 12 months? You're up for another 12 months? Another 50 episodes?
Yeah, I think we'll just keep getting better and have better content and more insights. I mean, we try and share things that are happening in real time. For us, we'll see things that are happening. All right, that's an episode that we'll talk about. So I think that's where the value is. It's our exposure to lots of different brands. And if you're just isolated in your own brand, an issue happens, you don't know if it's just isolated to you or if it's a broader issue. So the value that we're trying to bring is to kind of tell everyone that it's like, no, these are things that are happening across the board.
That's good. We'll keep on sharing our perspectives of what we're seeing, and I'm committed too. So there you go. We'll maybe have a break over Christmas.
Yes.
Or prep a few, and I'm keen to do some more interviewing of brands. I think that'll be interesting as well. Those conversations are always fascinating, and always learning more as well. And we might even get some other international perspectives as well, from some other people in this space. So we will keep it interesting for you. We won't, if anything, we'll just not be boring. Is our goal. Will be informative and stuff that is going to, give you actionable steps you can take now to get better results. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in over this last year and actually keeping us motivated to keep on going. Even though I don't know exactly how many people have listened. That's fine. Seb and I will continue to have these chats, and hopefully more people listen and find them useful, putting everything into place. So thanks so much. Appreciate it. And we'll see you on episode 51. Whenever I know Seb's going to be taking off for a little break, well-deserved break, and we'll see what he thinks about while he's on his trip to talk about next week. All right. Thank you so much, team. Appreciate it. All the best.